And now that we've explored the difference between a regular table and a pivot table, as well as between the regular chart and a pivot chart, and before creating the dashboard, ensure that your data is clean. Remove any blank rows. To check if there are any blank rows, just highlight all, Control A, and then go to find and select option, and then go to special, and then click blank. Okay, so far there were no cells were found blank. Okay. And also confirm that each column has a header so that Excel can correctly recognize and summarize the information. And also to make the data easier to read and analyze, let's also apply a table style to improve its overall performance or to enhance our analysis. So every time you click your data set within your data set, this menu table design will pop up. But click this data set. You select your data set, or you can Control or highlight all, Control A, and then go to table design and then select your preferred table styles. For now, let's select this one. Okay, that's it. Now that our data set is ready, the next step is to analyze our data. Analyze it to understand the key trends, patterns, and relationships. So from this analysis, we can identify the most meaningful insight to highlight in our dashboard. In our students' performance data sets, we have information here such as gender, the race or ethnicity, parental level of education, lunch type, test preparation course, and the student scores in math, reading, and writing. So before we start building our visuals, we should ask ourselves first, what patterns or comparison do we want to explore? And also, which factors might influence students' performance? So do we want to see who performs better between males or females, or how the test preparation courses impact their scores? So once we know the kind of insight that we are aiming for, it becomes easier to decide which fields to summarize in our pivot table and which charts to include in our dashboard. So remember that a good dashboard class don't just show data. They should answer specific questions. Let's move on to data analysis stage. Since our data set focuses on students' performance in exam, so let's start by examining how these different factors may influence their result in their exam. So these variables can help us to uncover patterns if there are any performance gap or influencing factors that affect students' academic outcomes. And now let's analyze how students perform based on their gender by comparing the average scores of male and female students. This will help us see if there's any noticeable difference or performance gap between the two groups. So let us drag the gender to the rows, and then let's drag to the values the math score, the reading, and the writing score. So as you can see here in the values, it will automatically compute the sum. So in order to, since we don't need to compute the sum for this field, we need the average score versus the gender. So we need to switch to function into average. So just select this field, and then this one will pop up, and select the value field settings and go to average. Same as with the sum of the do the same to their reading score. Click average, summarize values by click average. Okay, so as you can see, there are lots of decimal that you can see in each variable. So since we don't need these decimals, let's try to remove this one by clicking the home and then go to this number formats and then select decrease decimal. Let's just select the whole number for us to be, since we don't need the decimal here in this variable. Okay, that's it. We have our first pivot table. So we can name this pivot table. Let us label our pivot table. Just go to pivot table name and click this area and type. Let's put title for this one. Average student performance. Average student performance by gender. Okay, that's it. Now, since our pivot table was able to summarize the data that we need, so let's try now to insert a chart. All you need to do is just to select your pivot table and your this option, the pivot table, will pop up every time you select your pivot table. Okay, let's go to pivot table analyze and then go to pivot chart. So these are the possible chart that we can use. We can use the column chart, the line chart, and it's not quite too appropriate to use this pie graph. We can also use the bar graph bar chart as well. Chart. Okay, let's try to use the clustered column. So just click OK and this one will pop up. And now we can customize our chart. Okay, let's try to customize our chart. Just go to this plus symbol to select the chart elements. So let's try to put our legend at the bottom. And then this label, this is not necessary anymore to put this in our clustered chart or column chart. To remove this one, you can just right click and then go to hide all field buttons. And we can also add some label to our chart. Just go to again to the plus sign and then select data labels, and let's put a chart title for our column chart. So let's name this one as average. Let's put title in this average student performance by gender. Okay. So now you have your pivot table, and your pivot chart is connected to your pivot table. Every time you change your fields here, your pivot chart will also automatically update. Like, let's try to change it to test preparation course. Let's try to change the row to test preparation. So this one will appear as well. So, but we need to shift it. Okay, and if you want to change the background color of your chart, you can just go to fill. You can select your color here. You can select appropriate color for your chart, but this one is not quite good to choose, but okay, this is a lot more better. But if you didn't want to select here in the format chart area, you can just go to design and then you can just automatically select here in the chart styles. Okay, let's try to select this one. Okay, so you can also resize your chart, and you can also change your font size to your chart title. Just go to home and then select the appropriate size, font size for your chart title. Okay, that's it. We now have our pivot table and pivot chart for analysis for our performance versus the gender. As you can see, that male student performed better in math with the average score of 69 compared to 64 among females. Wherein females as well, on the other hand, outperformed the males in reading. So as you can see here, they got 73 average versus 65 average score for male, and the female also got the highest score in average score in writing versus the male in writing. Okay, the overall average indicate that both genders have relative strengths, males in analytical areas and females in language-related subjects. Okay, now you can rename your sheet. Let us rename our sheet into average student performance. Average student performance. For gender. Okay, that's it. Okay, now we're good to go in our analysis in our variable in terms of gender. In terms of comparing their performance by gender. Okay, now that we've analyzed the student performance based on the gender, let's move to another interesting factor, their test preparation course. We'll explore whether students who completed the preparation course performed better than those who did not. So to create a new worksheet for our next analysis, just simply right-click and then press Ctrl. And this right-click on any existing sheet tab, then press Ctrl, and this plus icon with sheet image will pop up, and it will automatically create a copy of the selected sheet. Now let's name this sheet into average student performance. Average student performance, or let's say average student performance by test prep. Okay. So now this will give you a fresh sheet or new sheet where you can organize and analyze your next set of data, wherein it keeping each analysis clear and separate and easy to navigate. So now let's change this one, the row labels, into test preparation course. Just easy as that. See, now your pivot tables display the average performance of students based on whether they took the test preparation course or not. So as you can see, the data shows a notable difference in performance between students who completed the test preparation course and those who did not complete the test preparation course. So students who completed the prep course achieved higher average scores across all of the subjects, such as math, reading, and the writing. So meanwhile, those with no preparation scored lower on average, specifically on their math, and reading and writing. Wherein this suggests that participating in test preparation course positively influences student performance, wherein it improves their study habits, familiarity with exam formats, and confidence during the test as well. So overall, the trend indicates that structured preparation leads to better academic outcomes, wherein it emphasizes the value of test readiness programs in supporting student achievement. Okay, before we move to another factor, let's edit the pivot table name into average student performance by test preparation course. Same as with our chart title, the student performance by test preparation course. Okay, let's change the font style, and you can adjust the let's change the font style. Okay, and also I forgot, let's also change the chart title here. Average price. Okay, that's it. Okay, I forgot to put the chart name. Okay, just click this chart and then go to pivot chart analyze and go to chart name. So whatever your chart title here should also appear here in the chart name, and then press enter. Okay, that's it. Okay, we're done with our analysis in students' performance by test preparation course. Now let's move to our next analysis. Let's compare their performance naman versus their lunch time. Okay, so we're going to explore whether students with a standard lunch perform differently compared to those who receive a free or reduced lunch. So this comparison can give us hints about possible socioeconomic influences on student achievement. So to do this, let's going to copy again this existing pivot table and pivot chart. Just press Ctrl and then right click. Okay, let's rename this one to student performance by lunch type. Lunch. Now let's go to our pivot table again. So the pivot table will pop up. And then let's remove this test preparation course to our row labels, and let's change it to lunch type. So we're just going to use the same type of chart, the clustered column chart, since we're dealing with comparison in our data set that involves categorical variables such as from our previous such as gender, test preparation course, and lunch type. So again, against our numerical values, which is the average scores. So the clustered column chart is the most appropriate choice for this type of data, wherein it visually presents categories side by side, wherein it enables us to simply compare the average performance across different types of groups. And now let's change our chart title into by average student performance by lunch type. Lunch type. Now let's also change our chart name. Chart name, same as with our chart title. Chart name, same as with our pivot table. Let's go to average by lunch time. Okay. And our sheet, rename our sheet. Okay, now as you can see from our chart, so if students with a standard lunch, it shows consistently score higher, wherein it suggests that access to better nutrition or let's say socioeconomic conditions could also play a role in academic performance. So this kind of analysis also give us or helps us understand as well, not just what the differences are, but also why they might exist, wherein it enables us to give a deeper context to our data storytelling. Now let's move to our next analysis. Let's try to analyze their performance by their race or ethnicity. So again, let's create another copy of this pivot table and pivot chart. So just create. Okay, so here's another copy of our next analysis. Let's rename this one average performance by race. Okay, so in this part, we are going to explore whether there are differences in average performance in various across racial or ethnic groups. Wherein this can help us identify patterns or trends that may be linked to broader social or educational factors. So let's try to change our row labels again. Instead of lunch, let's change to race or ethnicity. So let's change our chart title, race and ethnicity. And same as with our chart name. So whatever your chart title should be your pivot chart. Same as with your pivot table name. Okay, now that we've updated all the labels, the chart title, and then the pivot. Now we can change our chart type as well. Let's try to change our chart, pivot chart. Let's try to use bar. Okay, clustered bar. Okay, just click OK. Okay, let's remove this one. Let's just copy this. And remove, and we'll update the chart name to, for the pivot table is still the same. Okay, so again, let's try to make this chart more clean. Let's hide this one because those are unnecessary, and let's put the legend at the bottom. And then let's put some data labels, and let's put the chart title. Okay, race by ethnicity. You can also adjust your name of your chart area. just go to, since we are going to adjust the gap width of this series option. When you click this series option, this format data point will pop up. So you can select whether to change the color, but let's going to adjust the gap width. Let's try that one. A lot more button width. Then let's adjust this one. Make it more nicer. Okay, there you go. As you can see from the chart, you can observe which ethnicity or group ethnicity groups tend to perform better or lower on average. So this helps us spot on group-wise performance trends and raises as well a meaningful question such as whether certain groups may have, let's say, different levels of access to learning resources, or let's say preparation opportunities. Now, so the data reveals notable variations in student performance across their different race or ethnicity groups. So as you can see, the group E achieved the highest average scores across all subjects from the writing, reading, and math. So indicating consistently, they have a consistently strong academic performance. Compared to Group D, follows with slightly lower but still above average. They got the above average scores. And in contrast, the Group A, B, C, wherein it shows relatively lower averages, particularly the Group A, which recorded the lowest scores in all areas. Specifically, in math, they got 62 average score. Reading, they got 65. And writing, 63. Wherein this trend suggests that academic performance tends to improve progressively from Group A to E. Next, let's examine how parental education levels influence students' performance on their different subject scores. For this analysis, we'll use the variable parental level of education to see if there's really a relationship between how far a parent has gone in school and how well their child performs in math, reading, and so let's create another copy since we are just going to use same data fields on there, since we're going to compare the average subject scores of the students, but we're just going to change our row labels into parent level of education. So let's just create same copy for this. Okay, there you go. Let's rename this one to parent level of education. Okay, press enter. So let's change our row label. So if your pivot table panel fields won't pop up, just click this pivot table and then left click in your mouse and select the show field list. Okay, so now you can see your pivot table fields panel. And now let's change our row labels into parent level of education, and our values is It's just going to stick to our values on the average of different subject scores. So in most cases, we expect to see an upward path. Okay, now we can also change our chart. Let's use this one, clustered column. Okay, copy and then delete. Then let's use this one. Hide all button and then legend to the bottom and then let's put chart title. Let's change the font size, and let's add some data labels. And let's adjust the gap width. Okay, same as with this one. Okay, that's it. Let's adjust. Okay, let's change again our pivot chart names. So now, as you can see, the result shows a positive relationship between parents, educational attainment, and their children's academic performance. So students whose parents achieve higher education levels such as master's degree or bachelor's degree, they consistently performed better across all the subject. So, in contrast naman sa students whose parents have lower educational background such as high school or some high school recorded the lowest averages with scores around math 62 to 63 and reading 65 and writing to 60. So this pattern also suggests that the parental level of education really plays a significant role in shaping the student achievement. Possibly, maybe due to factors such as they have a greater academic support at home, or maybe they have better access to educational resources, and maybe they also have a stronger motivation toward learning. Okay, now that we've completed all of our analysis such as student performance by gender, test preparation, lunch time, average student performance by race or ethnicity, and the average performance by parent level of education. Now we're going to create a simple interactive dashboard where we can easily explore patterns and relationship using pivot charts and slicers. So let's create new worksheet and let's rename it to dashboard. So let's put it on the side of our students' performance dataset. Now this is where we're going to insert all of our created pivot chart from our previous analysis. Okay, let's just copy this one, the gender, to our dashboard. uh, sheet. And then the test preparation course, we're just going to arrange it in a while. That one, and then our lunch time. And then lunch time. Fitness. Um, Okay, now let's try to rearrange our pivot chart that it will look nice, clean, and organized. Nice, clean, and organized. You can also put shapes for a better background of your dashboard. Let's try to insert rectangle shape and put it as the background of our dashboard. You can edit the color of this one. Let's try this gray. And let's put it, now you can drag to feel the area. Okay, that's it. Okay, now that we're able to organize our chart, pivot chart, you can also group your chart together to keep them aligned and stable, preventing layout shifts or misalignment when making adjustments to your dashboard. So to do that, just click the chart area, and then in order for you to group all the pivot charts together, just press Ctrl and then select another chart, and then press Ctrl, select this one and another chart, this one, and then right click and select group. Now when you're going to drag this, all of your chart will follow as well. Let's try to make some adjustment for this diagram for better visualization on this one. And let's try another. If you wanted to ungroup it for you to edit or make some changes, just click just select again your chart and then right click and go to group and select them. Now you can individually grab each chart, pivot chart. I'm going to rearrange a chart code. Okay, I guess this one is way better than the previous one. Now let's group it again. Select all chart and then select group. Okay. Now let's put a title for our dashboard. We're going to name this one Student Performance Interactive Dashboard. Student Performance Interactive. Let's add another shape again. Okay, and then let's start Student interactive dashboard. Use some size. Again, let's make this one bold. Put some. Let's try to put outline for our. Let's just go to shape format. Text outline. Let's try to outline medium orange. Orange. You can adjust the outline, the weight of the outline. And now let's try to group it as well. Okay, there you go. So if you want to add some image, you can also add. Just go to insert and select picture and go to place in cell and select this device. If you're able to download an image, let's try to download it. Let's try to use this sample. And where did it go? Again, let's let's insert picture and place over, since we put some shape here, over, and then select from your downloaded image. Okay, let's try this one. Let's try to insert this one. Here. And now let's add a slicer. The slicer is an interactive filtering tool in Excel that allows you to quickly and visually control what data appears in your pivot chart. So instead of using the standard drop-down menus or manual filters in Excel, so slicers display buttons that can you click to instantly filter your data, wherein this one allows us to make analysis faster, cleaner, and easier to understand as well. So to insert a slicer, just click any chart and then go to pivot chart analyze and select slicer. Select insert slicer. So we need to insert here. The slicer for this data set. So by gender, by launch type, by test preparation course, by race or ethnicity or parental level of education. And then click OK. And this one will pop up. Let's arrange this. First use. You can edit your slicer caption. Let's try to edit one. Let's just capitalize the first letter. And then same as with this test preparation. Okay, there you go. So every time you select the slicer or filter, so only this one will automatically update. So we need to we need also other chart, pivot chart, to be automatically update every time we click this slicer. All you have to do is just to select the slicer and then right click and go to report connections, and all you have to do is to do the same. And then for this test preparation, report connections. As you can see, all of our pivot chart that we labeled or put some label also appear. Just select all and same as for this one. Okay. Now that all of your slicers are already connected to all of your pivot chart. Okay. Now you have your interactive dashboard. So let us also group these slicers. Let's group Okay, now that all of your slicers are connected to the pivot charts, so it's much easier to interact with your dashboard. So you can quickly filter and display only the data that you wanted to analyze. For example, let's view the performance by gender, lunch type, or test preparation, course, and race or their ethnicity. So all of that with just a single click on. So this makes your dashboard more dynamic, efficient, and also visually engaging for analysis and presentation. So that's all for our simple yet interactive dashboard. Okay, so that wraps up our session in creating simple yet interactive dashboard. We've transformed a plain dataset, this one, into a dynamic visual tool where you can explore insights, compare performance across different factors, and instantly filter data using slicers. So this kind of dashboard doesn't only just present numbers, but also it helps you to tell story through data and make meaningful interpretations in just one glance.